There are many different ways people can get inspired to do anything.
Priorities mean certain sacrifices. You have to have academics as your first priority. That life would influence my dancing even when I was not practicing. Because I think I was a dancer from the day that I started learning. Do it and win your battles one at a time. I think these struggles are what made me who I am, and hence I say that I wouldn't take away any part of it.
So Swagat hai, welcome Savitha.
Thank you very much.
So Savitha is an amazing dancer and she's passionate about what she's following, and here we are on A Billion Dreams.
Thank you so much, Ashish sir. It's a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Fantastic. So a dream you do, don't you?
Yes, I think I've been dreaming for a very long time. This dream of dance was something that started watching the kind of work that dancers did in those days, which was through film, in fact. So my earliest influences were from watching Bollywood stars, Hema Malini ji, especially Vaijayanti Mala ji, and I grew up at a time when entertainment was really that Sunday movie that you watched with your family. And whenever there was one of these leading ladies, it definitely inspired me to become like them. And become like them meant in those days learn dance.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, because typically one would think that you get inspired by a film actor and then you say, I want to become an actor. But you chose to be inspired by film people and started learning dancing.
That's right. I used to live in this area of Mumbai, King Circle, right across from Shanugananda Hall.
A lot of performances used to happen there.
That's right, and including these Bollywood actors, and they would have free access to a little child who would be given popcorn money, 1 rupee. And my parents would say, okay, they knew all of they were members at that Sabha, the Shanmugananda Hall Sabha, and they would say, ladki ko sambhal ke dekhna. And it was so open in those days that I could just spend every Saturday and Sunday evening watching shows, sneaking into green rooms very quietly in the intermission so I could find out what color costume they would wear before anyone else knew. So, these little ways of, I think, getting involved with dance even before I became a dancer or aspired to become a dancer. It was that which started it all.
So what I find really interesting is that there are many different ways people can get inspired to do anything. Okay, and if I may say, this is one of the first times that I've met somebody who's saying that she got inspired to learn classical dance after having watched films. So do you see a role of your parents also in that?
Without any doubt. Without my parents, I think I wouldn't have known how to follow through. With dreams, it's very easy to aspire to do something and become somebody. But the 99% of the work is in the follow through, I feel.
So after watching a dream, after seeing a dream, even beginning your journey and then following through with it.
Right. The beginning of the journey is obviously sometimes you need support for it, the right time. There could be hurdles that you might have to overcome. But once it's begun, there could be inertia, which you never processed as something that would hold you back within yourself.
When you began the journey, you didn't think about it.
Right. And that inertia might not be coming from other circumstances preventing you from following through, but an inertia that's inbuilt in us, that once you've come to a place where you've got what you wanted, that you are learning the dance. For me, the initial struggle was convincing my parents that I was going to be learning the art form itself, because there was some resistance, especially from my mother. Being a daughter, do you really want to be on stage? And this is not. She grew up in a time when she was not allowed to learn dance. Her father wouldn't even let her stand in the balcony, in the veranda. So for her daughter to learn dance was, a step. So there was resistance a little bit, and then I think my persistence as a child paid off. But after I started, I realized that the practice, the amount of time I needed to invest in just getting from being an aspiring dancer to actually becoming a proficient one is humongous.
And would you also imagine that? I would imagine that in your milieu, your other friends had some other things that they would be doing in their off time, whereas you would have something else.
Yes, and I think that is something that happens at every stage. So when you're an aspiring dancer and you're just learning, then your friends are playing somewhere. And my mother would make these cassette decks, and half an hour long, and it would have all my practice pieces jumbled up in different orders, and she'd have Monday tape, Tuesday tape, Wednesday tape, apart from my teacher who would show up. And the rule was very clear: you finish your tape, you finish your class in the evening after coming back from school, and then you go to play. So this was very early on. My parents instilled that discipline in me, that you need to do it. I did not like it, I have to be very honest. And then later in life, what happens is that even your family has priorities which might not be yours because of the amount of physical training that you need to do. You're exhausted at times when they are ready to get up and have an evening out. You find that people that are your peers have this attitude of kabhi bhi dekho nachte rehte ho yaar.
Yeah, and so at whichever age that we are at sometimes doubt crops in, that is it really worth it, because others we see are having fun, or just having a better time, or even just joking about what you're doing. Did that play for you at some point?
Strangely, I don't think I ever doubted that I wanted to invest the time into either the process of becoming a dancer or the idea itself of being a dancer versus what I was. I had a very different career, which I gave up to become a full-time dancer very late in life. No, I can say very certainly that the doubt never came. Wasn't ever there.
Yeah, so I'll share a funny anecdote from my life. When I started doing theater, and I said that, theater is something which, and I was that time in college, and I was about to join the drama school, say in about 3 or 4 years from then. I recall that I was in rehearsals on Sundays, and I was in rehearsals on late evenings on each of the other days also. And my friends were doing, they had some other things to do. I also remember especially during Durga Pujas, so all the community friends, in the evening they used to be gathering at the pandal and watching films, and I would come late in the evening and join the last of the film, watching the last of the film. I too, I recall that I would look at those people, and I knew that I was different. And far from doubt, I felt very proud that I was different. Did you get that feeling ever?
I think definitely, because it's a lifestyle, isn't it? Becoming a dancer, from what you eat, how you regimen your day into different kinds of physical activities, all of those are choices that you have to make, and how you bundle them so that it doesn't interfere too much in any way with your own family life. Being a woman, and sort of being empowered to do all of that despite whatever else. So yes, the doubt, you channel into a place where you start to process that priorities mean certain sacrifices, and what are you willing to give?
What are you going to give up?
Yes.
What are you going to give up about? That's right. So you came into another profession before you became a full-time dancer. Tell us something about that.
So again, I think having the financial independence to pursue dance is something that came late in life for me. I started out with the idea of becoming a scientist, influenced, of course, by being in the milieu that I was. You have to have academics as your first priority. And therefore, I went to the United States to pursue a graduate program. I got into a PhD program in Duke University,
And what was your subject?
neuroscience.
Woo.
I had a son there, and long story short, I was in research for several years in America. And then, in order to be able to raise a family, I decided an easier choice of career would be academics. So I was teaching in the field of science. And somewhere along all of that, tried to keep dance alive.
Yeah, and you did.
I did. In
So would you also say that at times in life, certain things are allowed to be dormant for a while for them to come back again?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because dormancy, I think, is a term that has been relatively, sort of relative in my experience. So the years that I wasn't dancing as much as I am now,
Yes.
I feel there was still an internal processing of life that was going on in me that would surge into these 2 weeks of intense dancing.
Wow.
And then I would have to, because of where life was and what my commitments were, I had to step back. And I always felt that life would influence my dancing even when I was not practicing.
Actively dancing, still it
Yes.
was adding to the
Yes.
dansus that you are.
Yes, and I wouldn't take away any part of what I had to go through. And to really become a professional dancer, my first show that I consider was at the level of a professional dancer because of all other circumstances was when I was 40 years old.
Wow.
So if somebody were to ask me, were you just not a dancer until that point? And I would challenge that, because I think I was a dancer from the day that I started learning, just maybe not actively on stage.
You spouted then.
Yeah.
That's when, I mean that's, in a way I use it like, it's like latent. It is there. It is possibly waiting. It is possibly there and can just kind of come out at whatever point, and that is when it did. So I'll share with you a very interesting anecdote about my mother. My mother belonged to a zamindar family in Rajasthan. She's a Bengali. Her grandparents were the zamindars there. And it was unthinkable for them that a daughter from their family would learn dance. And Ma wanted to learn Kathak. And Ma told me how she literally fell at the feet of her grandfather and took permission to dance, and he agreed on one condition. And that condition was that she will never perform. All right. And the interesting thing that happened is that even after he moved on, passed away, Ma kept that promise. But what she did is she made sure that she poured herself into making sure that hundreds of dancers who went through her tutelage, and then later on, because she was a disciple of Achal Maharajji and Shambhu Maharajji, and so a whole lot of the students of Birju Maharajji were all taught by her in the initial years, and there. So somewhere I've always felt that life and situations may come in the way of any one of our passions, our dreams. And there's an odd thing, it's a James Hadley Chase title from years back. It says, "The vulture is a patient bird." I've always felt that any one of us, if we can have the patience and say that, I'm going to be around. I just have to keep nurturing my talent and wait for it and wait for that right opportunity which no one else can define. Just imagine somebody telling you, "What, at 40 you're making your first really, what thing? Have you given up? Is it over?" How did it go on for you, even when you may have heard that, or you may have perceived yourself to be late? How did it function for you? How did the mind sort it?
It was difficult. I mean, I was an earning member of my family. And one day to say that, okay, I'm going to give it up, move from America to India. And I did that in stages. I first came to the Middle East, and I was working there in academics, and I would catch a flight on, because Friday and Saturday were the weekend. I would catch a flight. So I would be in India for a performance on Friday and Saturday after the performance, I would catch a flight back, and Sunday morning I would be back at work in Dubai. So, because I was so scared to commit to coming back to India and just launch myself into becoming a dancer that late in life and give up my profession and the ability to contribute to my family financially. So it was very scary. And that leap of faith, I think you need support to just make it. And, Shrikant, my partner, he very early on, he said something, and I literally wrote it down on a piece of paper to believe it. And he said, believe that you're a star when everyone around you doesn't even know that. So, and I would just look at it, and of course, I was practicing all through. I mean, there wasn't a stage where I wasn't dancing in my garage, but that's very different from putting yourself
On
out
stage,
in.
yes.
It's very different. So I think it came in stages. There were times when I absolutely was frustrated that, there was one particular anecdote where I was part of this touring company, a member important in the dance group, but the tour was not just dancers, it had a music troupe as well, and then there was some other types of performances. And the understanding that I had when I went into it is that I would be part of this whole group, being one of the dancers, but I would have my own slot of 45 minutes where I would present what was my first dance theatre opportunity. And that was the agreement that was drawn upon while we toured Southeast Asia and other countries, Australia. And lo and behold, when it actually started happening, I was supposed to be their opening act, and I don't know what it was within the politics. They decided that they would make me the closing act. And what that meant was the whole troupe would go on. They would do the curtain call with me, and then they would announce at 11 p.m. that there is another act that will follow for 45 minutes, and that was my solo act. And I would call Shrikant and I would cry to him. I'd say, how do I do this? How do I take this dance theatre production, my first venture, and make it afterthought almost in that scheme of how the production was laid out? And he said, just do it. Do it, because you can't fight all wars. You can't fight all battles all the time and win them. Do it and win your battles one at a time. And just get through it. Get through the tour. It was a very long tour as well. And see how you come out of it on the other end. And I did it. It was very difficult. So all of these different sorts of things, I think, eventually made me the person that I am, the conviction I have, the ability to not regard age as a limitation, and to just keep doing it as, okay, I'm able to do it today. Kal jo hoga, dekha jayega. I think these struggles are what made me who I am, and hence I say that I wouldn't take away any part of it.
Wow. So, Savitha, as I told you, this is part of a series called A Billion Dreams. And my idea of Billion Dreams is to share with the world dreams of people they may not instantly know and recognize. Because I personally believe that each one of us has something amazing that we have done. this sharing of yours, I've just gotten present to things that you gave up many years back, and then you came back to it. For me, that is a resurrection. That is the proverbial, that amazing, the coming back of that moment. For me, you are a celebration of not giving up. I want to congratulate you on the choices that you have made. I want to congratulate you for your attitude towards accepting and not willing to distance anything that has happened to you. All right. So I'm so
Thank
very
you.
happy that we could be part of this conversation.
Thank you. Yes, I think you can be a phoenix and rise from your own ashes, or just crumble and be defeated by that. And it's an adjustment. It doesn't come easy, but if you're willing to be patient, as you rightly said, remarkable things can happen.
Fantastic. So be the phoenix in your life, dear friend. If you've liked what you've heard, please give a like to this video, share it with others. Who knows whom you will inspire along with this, and put in your comments. And you want to know more about the work that Savitha is doing along with her partner, Shri, please check out the link below. They're doing some amazing work. I promise to bring you dreams like this from different places and the amazing people that I get to meet. Al shukran bandhu, al shukran Savitha, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका.